At our anniversary dinner, my wife raised her glass, her smile glowing in the candlelight. Then she said the words that shattered me. Here's to my real soulmate. The table went silent. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. Forks froze midair. I stared at her, waiting for a laugh, a wink, some cruel attempt at a joke. But there was none. She clinked her glass with a calm certainty that felt like a dagger sliding under my ribs. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 37 years old, a senior architect at a firm that has spent the last decade designing high-rise skylines across 3 different states. My life, at least on paper, looked steady. A good salary, a reputation built on precision and vision, and a modest but comfortable home in the suburbs. For 10 years, I believed I had built something just as strong in my marriage. Claire, my wife, was a woman who seemed to embody everything I lacked: warmth, charisma, effortless charm that could light up a room before I'd even finished shaking hands. Where I was deliberate, she was spontaneous. Where I planned, she improvised. It worked, or at least I thought it did. Our relationship had been the envy of friends and colleagues. We had rituals: Friday night takeout, Sunday morning coffee on the porch, anniversary dinners where we'd trade inside jokes and subtle smiles across candlelit tables. I built my life around those rituals. They were my proof that, no matter how stressful my days became, I had something real waiting at home. But what I didn't realize was that rituals can also become routines, and routines can hide rot. The signs were small at first, so small I brushed them aside. Claire began staying later at work, often with vague explanations about project deadlines. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, now seemed to be welded to her hand. When I reached for it once, just to check the time, she flinched like I'd touched a live wire. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, we'd been married a decade. We trusted each other. Didn't we? Then came the dinner invitation. Claire insisted we celebrate our anniversary somewhere fancy this year, not the quiet little bistro we usually return to. She booked a place downtown, all chandeliers and polished silver, with enough space for more than just the two of us. That should have been my first warning. Anniversary dinners are intimate by nature. Yet suddenly, we were surrounded by friends, colleagues, and people I didn't even know. Still, I played along. I wore the tailored suit she liked, picked up a bouquet of lilies on my way out of the office, and smiled as we slid into our reserved table. Claire looked radiant, the kind of radiant that made me fall for her in the first place. For a fleeting moment, I thought maybe I'd been overthinking everything. And then she stood, glass in hand, and with that same dazzling smile that once belonged only to me, she toasted to her real soulmate. The ride home after that dinner was a silence I'll never forget. The city lights smeared across the windshield as I drove, but all I could hear were her words echoing in my skull. Here's to my real soulmate. I wanted to ask her what the hell she meant. I wanted to pull the car over and demand an explanation right there on the dark stretch of highway. But something stopped me. It wasn't fear of the answer. It was the way she leaned back in her seat, scrolling casually on her phone like nothing unusual had happened. That indifference chilled me more than the toast itself. The next morning, I tested the waters. Over coffee, I asked lightly, "So, last night, that toast, it sounded a little strange she didn't look up from her cup." "You're overanalyzing again, Ethan." "It was just a joke. A joke." That single word was supposed to patch the gaping hole she'd just torn in my chest. I forced a smile, but my mind kept replaying the moment. Her tone hadn't been teasing. Her eyes hadn't searched for laughter. They'd been steady, deliberate, like she wanted the words to land. Over the next week, I started noticing things I had been blind to before. Her late nights at the office became more frequent. At first, once or twice a week. Now, nearly every evening. She brushed me off with excuses about deadlines. But when I checked her firm's website, there weren't any big projects launching. Her phone habits shifted too. It buzzed constantly, but she angled the screen away every time. Once, when she was in the shower, I heard it ping on the counter. The name that flashed across the screen wasn't one I recognized, just a single initial followed by a heart emoji. When I asked about it later, she snapped, "You don't trust me?" After 10 years of marriage, it wasn't just defensiveness, it was anger, sharp and disproportionate. I tried to shake it off, told myself couples go through rough patches. That work stress makes people edgy. But deep down, I felt it. The ground beneath our marriage wasn't solid anymore. Then came the Saturday morning, when I caught her humming in the kitchen, smiling at a text on her phone. I asked what was so funny. She said, "Nothing," and slipped the phone into her pocket like a teenager hiding secrets. It wasn't nothing, it was everything. That was the moment I realized Claire wasn't slipping away by accident. She was choosing to drift. And for the first time, I let myself imagine a possibility I had never allowed before. Maybe I wasn't the man she saw as her soulmate. Maybe someone else had already taken that place. It happened on a Thursday night. Claire had told me she was swamped at work. Another late meeting with the partners. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and pretended to buy it. But when midnight rolled around and she still wasn't home, the doubt gnawed too hard to ignore. I called her office line. No answer. I called her cell. Straight to voicemail. Something in me snapped. Not in rage. More like clarity. If she was hiding something, it wouldn't reveal itself through confrontation. I needed proof. So I drove downtown. Her office building was dark. Every floor but one. And it wasn't hers. I waited in the car for nearly an hour before she appeared. Not from the building, but from the cafe across the street. She wasn't alone. She walked out with a man. Tall, confident, wearing the kind of tailored suit that screamed old money. They were laughing, shoulders brushing as they crossed the sidewalk. And then, as if to shatter any remaining illusion, she touched his arm in that intimate, absent-minded way you only do when you're used to someone. I didn't storm out. I didn't make a scene. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached, watching my wife slip into a world I wasn't part of. She didn't see me. The next morning, she breezed into the kitchen like nothing had happened. She kissed me lightly, poured herself coffee, and chatted about how exhausting her meeting had been. I played along, but inside, every word curdled. That weekend, the cracks widened. Saturday night, she told me she needed space to think, claimed she might stay with her sister for a night or two. I nodded, pretending not to notice that her suitcase already sat by the door. Too neatly packed for a spur-of-the-moment visit? I didn't stop her. When the door shut behind her, I sat at the dining table staring at the empty wine glass she'd left behind. And then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Thanks for letting Claire breathe. You'll understand someday my blood ran cold." I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, every nerve in my body on fire. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just someone she worked with. He knew about me. He knew my name. And he felt bold enough to text me directly. The final straw came 2 nights later. Claire came home late again, slipped off her heels, and went straight to the shower. When she left her purse on the counter, I noticed her phone half slipped from it. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The first message at the top of her screen stopped my heart. "Last night was perfect. Can't wait until it's just us." There it was. No more doubt, no more excuses. My wife had a soulmate, and it wasn't me. I didn't say anything right away. For 2 days after I read that message, I carried it like a hot coal in my chest. Every time Claire spoke to me about groceries, about dinner plans, about some meaningless gossip from work, I heard the words echoing in my head. Can't wait until it's just us. By Sunday night, I couldn't hold it in. She came home later than usual, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. She dropped her bag on the counter, humming to herself like she had just stepped out of a dream. I sat at the kitchen table, the message pulled up on my phone. When she finally noticed my silence, she froze. "What?" she asked, her voice light but her eyes wary. I turned the screen toward her. "Who is he, Claire?" Her face drained of color. For a split second, panic flickered. But then it was gone, replaced by that practiced composure I used to admire. She gave a half laugh. "You went through my phone? That's what you're worried about?" My voice was calm, colder than I expected. "Not the fact that you've been lying to me for months?" She tried to wave it off. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend, Ethan. You're overreacting." I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. "Friends don't send messages like that." Friends don't spend the night together while their wife tells her husband she's at her sister's. Her mask cracked again. For the first time, she looked genuinely nervous. You don't understand. Then help me, I cut in. Make me understand. The silence stretched. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the faint tick of the wall clock. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, He gets me in ways you don't. He pushes me, makes me feel alive. With you, it's just routine. The words hit harder than any physical blow. So, you found your soulmate? I asked quietly. She flinched. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything. I stood, my chair scraping against the tile. I'm asking if the woman I married is already gone. For the first time since this began, she didn't have a quick answer. She just stared at me, her lips pressed tight, her fingers trembling as she reached for her glass of water. That's when I knew the truth. I didn't shout. I didn't throw things. I simply said, If you've already made your choice, Claire, then so have I. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out, I replied, my voice steady. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the weight begin to shift. Not onto me, but onto her. Claire's glass of water slipped in her hand and hit the counter with a sharp clink. She didn't drink it. Instead, she leaned back against the kitchen island, arms crossed, her eyes narrowing into slits. So, that's it, she said. You're going to play the martyr now? Poor Ethan, betrayed husband. Do you think anyone will believe you? Everyone knows how boring you've become. Her words sliced like razor wire, each one deliberate, designed to provoke. But instead of anger, I felt a strange calm. Funny, I said quietly, because boring was the life we built together. The house, the dinners, the nights we stayed up talking about our future, that was ours. Now suddenly it's not enough. She scoffed, her lips curling into a smirk that used to charm me but now just looked venomous. You really think sitting in this house, paying bills and watching the same shows makes you a good husband? She caught herself, biting the word back. He reminds me I'm more than just someone's wife. There it was. She didn't even realize she had said it out loud. I stepped closer, close enough to see her pulse hammering in her neck. So, you admit it? There is someone else, she faltered, just for a moment, then lifted her chin. Fine. Yes, but what are you going to do about it, Ethan? Divorce me? Good luck. My lawyer's already on retainer. The house, the savings, everything. We'll split it, and I'll still walk away with more. You'll end up exactly where you started. In your mother's basement, the venom in her voice, the absolute certainty, ignited something in me. For weeks, I'd been drowning in betrayal, second-guessing myself, wondering what I'd done wrong. But in that moment, clarity cut through the fog. Claire wasn't just careless. She was cruel. She wanted me to feel small, disposable, humiliated. I let out a slow breath and met her eyes. You know what the difference is between you and me, Claire? You need someone else to feel alive. I don't. Her smirk faltered. And as for this house, these savings, this life you think you'll strip from me? I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. You forget who built it. Who worked the late nights? Who signed every contract and made every payment while you were off chasing excitement? Her face shifted, mocking disdain giving way to unease. She hadn't expected resistance. She'd expected me to break. You're bluffing, she whispered. Am I? I asked. The kitchen went silent again, but this time it was her silence. She tapped her nails against the counter, avoiding my gaze. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her expression. Fear, faint but real. I turned and walked toward the doorway. You wanted to know what I'm going to do about it? Watch closely. Because this is the last time you'll ever underestimate me. I left her standing there, rattled, gripping the edge of the counter as if the floor beneath her had shifted. The next morning, Claire acted like nothing had happened. She breezed into the kitchen, humming as she poured coffee, pretending the venom from last night hadn't poisoned the air between us. I played along. Over breakfast, I listened to her chatter about weekend plans, nodding when necessary. But my mind wasn't on her words. It was on the quiet hours I'd spent after midnight, hunched over my laptop, pulling together years of records. See, Claire wasn't wrong when she said she had a lawyer. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Every transfer I'd made from my business accounts to cover our mortgage. Every receipt where I'd paid from my savings while her own card maxed out on shopping trips and spa days. Every text message where she admitted she wasn't contributing because she deserved to enjoy life. I had evidence. After she left for her Pilates class, I met with someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Andrew, my old college buddy turned corporate attorney. We weren't close anymore, but he owed me a favor. When I told him everything, he leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. Ethan, you've basically been funding her entire lifestyle. She has no claim to your business or the majority of your assets. Half the house, sure, but even that can be fought. If she's cheating, even better. Paper trail? I slid my phone across the table. Screenshots? Messages? That one slip of her voice in the kitchen? Andrew smiled like a wolf. She thinks she's walking away with everything. Let me show you how she walks away with nothing. By the time I got home, Claire was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up. "You're late," she said flatly. "Business," I replied. Her eyes flickered for just a moment. Suspicion. She tried to mask it, but I caught it. That evening, I made my second move. I logged into our joint account, the one she loved draining for weekend getaways, and transferred my portion into a new account under my name only. Clean, legal, traceable. I left just enough behind to make her think nothing had changed. The next day, I had the locks on my office changed. My business files, my contracts, everything that mattered was secured. Claire wouldn't even realize the walls around her were closing in until they were already sealed. That night, she tried to pick another fight. Something about me being distant. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just looked her in the eye and said, "You'll see soon enough." And then, my final card. Friday evening, I invited her parents over. Claire lit up, thinking I was making some kind of peace offering. She even dressed up, putting on the same perfume she'd worn on our wedding day. But when her parents sat in our living room, I handed them the neatly bound folder Andrew had prepared. Expense reports, bank transfers, screenshots, even a draft divorce petition already in motion. Her mother flipped through the pages, her lips thinning. Her father looked at Claire, disappointment etched across his face. "Is this true?" he asked quietly. Claire stammered, her confidence cracking for the first time. "He's twisting everything." "No," I interrupted. My voice was calm, steady. "This is the truth." The truth you thought I was too weak to face her parents sat in silence. Claire's face went pale. I leaned back, folded my hands, and delivered the line I'd been saving. "You said without you, I'd end up in my mother's basement. Funny thing is, without me, you won't even have a roof over your head." The room went dead quiet, and for the first time in months, I felt the weight shift. The power was mine. Claire's mouth opened and closed like she was searching for words, but nothing came out. Her parents sat stiffly on the couch, the weight of truth pressing down on all of us. Her mother broke the silence first. "Claire, how could you?" Mom, you don't understand. He's making it sound worse than—" Her father cut her off sharply. "Enough." His tone carried a finality that Claire wasn't used to. She shrank back, her bravado crumbling. I stood, walked to the side table, and picked up the envelope I'd placed there earlier. With deliberate calm, I set it on the coffee table in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, her voice unsteady. "Your exit papers," I said. "Divorce petition. Filed and ready. You wanted half of everything? You're getting half of nothing. The bank accounts under my name are locked. The business is protected. The house? You'll find out soon enough that you can't claim what you never paid for." Her eyes widened. You can't do this to me." I leaned forward, my gaze steady. "I already did." Her parents shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't just me turning my back on her. Now even the people she counted on to rescue her were seeing her for who she truly was. Claire's voice cracked. "So what? You're just going to throw me out like trash?" I tilted my head, almost pitying her. "Trash doesn't get thrown out, Claire. Trash gets taken out." The color drained from her face. I picked up the folder of evidence once more, flipping to the page with her late-night texts and her spa bills paid for with my hard-earned money. I laid it flat for her parents to see. "Your daughter didn't just betray me," I said, my voice calm but razor-sharp. "She used me. She drained me. And when I finally confronted her, she mocked me. Tonight isn't about revenge, it's about accountability." Her mother closed the folder with trembling hands. She couldn't even look at Claire anymore. Claire tried one last tactic, desperation bleeding into her tone. "Ethan, please, we can fix this. I'll change, I swear. I cut her off. "You don't get to swear change now. You don't get to rewrite the story at the last chapter. You scoffed that I'd be in my mother's basement without you. Instead, you're about to find yourself on the curb without me." Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. No pity. No regret. Just clarity. I walked to the door, opened it wide, and stood aside. "Take the folder, Claire. Consider it your parting gift. Everything you need to know about why this marriage ended is in there. Pack what you can tonight. By tomorrow morning, the locks will be changed." Her father rose first, his face unreadable. He took Claire gently by the arm, but there was no warmth in his grip. Only duty. Her mother followed, avoiding my eyes, clutching the folder like it was a coffin. Claire lingered for one last moment, her face twisted with something between rage and despair. "You'll regret this, Ethan," she hissed. I met her gaze, steady, unflinching. "No, Claire. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." She flinched as though the words themselves struck her. Then she turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor, the sound echoing like the final nails in a coffin. When the door shut behind them, the silence was thick. But it wasn't heavy. It was clean, liberating. I poured myself a drink, sat back on the couch, and looked around the house I had built, the life I had fought for. For the first time in years, it felt like mine again. No more mockery. No more weight on my shoulders. No more living under someone else's shadow. I raised the glass, not to Claire, not to revenge, but to freedom. And in that moment, I knew the truth she could never accept. She thought she was my lifeline. But really, I had been hers all along. Now she was on her own, and I was finally free.